Welcome, dear believers and skeptics alike, to Rational Revelations, where a former believer delves into the realm of faith, spirituality, and the art of discerning truth in a world filled with diverse religious claims. We'll embark on a thought-provoking journey through the landscape of belief and skepticism and the methods we employ to navigate this intricate terrain. Today's topic is faith. This is a part one of a two-part series, with myself being rather passionate about what faith is, and if your patience would allow it, I want to do this topic justice and first explain the what and the how of faith, so that you might be enlightened to things previously unknown, and to show a more than surface-scratching understanding of what faith is. So please, stay a while and listen. So what is faith? Now, this is not a straightforward question and answer because, well, I'll quickly name four types of definitions of faith and probably many more that we could go over. One, what an atheist or most atheists define faith as. Two, what your own individual usage of the word is. Three, how does the Bible define faith in the Old and in the New Testament? And four, how early Christians defined it, as in roughly up to 300 CE or alternatively 300 AD, meaning roughly 300 years after Jesus' birth for those unfamiliar with the terminology. Now, I won't be discussing your own personal definition or usage of the word faith, as it is not feasible to discuss that in this format. But I will define and explain how the Bible uses the word and how early Christians defined it in context, and common atheistic views on it as well. Let's take a look at the Bible, starting with the Old Testament, the Hebrew word emunah, translated into faith or faithfulness. Here are two examples. Psalms 33 verse 4, "For the word of the Lord is upright, and all his work is done in faithfulness." In Lamentations 3 verse 23, "Great is his faithfulness, his mercies begin afresh each morning." These examples showcase the usage of the word emunah in the Old Testament, where it conveys the idea of trustworthiness, reliability, and faithfulness, both in the context of God's character and in the call for human faithfulness. Another example is Habakkuk 2 verse 4. "Behold, his soul is puffed up. It is not upright within him, but the righteous shall live by his faith." The verse suggests that the righteous will live by their faith or faithfulness, an indication that those who live their lives by faith are righteous, and I'll get back to this later. However, since the New Testament was written in Greek, they use the word pistis, translated to faith. This also expands the meaning of the word faith. For example, in Hebrews 11 verse 1, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." This verse is often considered a concise definition of faith, emphasizing confidence and assurance in things not seen. In Mark 11 verses 22 to 24, and Jesus answers them, "Have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to the mountain, 'Be taken up and thrown into the sea,' and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him." Here, Jesus encourages his disciples to have faith in God, illustrating the power and unwavering faith and trust in God's ability to bring about what is believed. In summary, the New Testament uses the word faith or pistis, asserting the claim that it transcends a simple acknowledgement of truth. It involves a profound trust and confidence and assurance in God, his character, and his promises. It's not merely a passive belief, but an active and transformative one, a trust that influences one's perspective and actions and relationship with God through Jesus Christ. The New Testament portrays faith as a dynamic force that shapes the way believers live and interact with the divine. I'll have to get back to this as well, but very important, it's not passive. You have to act upon it. As well, outside of the Bible, early Christian writers and thinkers used the word or the Greek term pistis, faith, in a manner that is consistent with the biblical usage, reflecting trust, confidence, and fidelity. I'm not going to give examples of external usage to the Bible of the word pistis and its consistency with the biblical uses. Reason being is that these episodes are quite long in length, and the consistency, I imagine, would be expected from believers, as it is consistent, and hence I see no reason for anyone to object to my assertion without evidence for this. Okay, so we have a background of the word faith and how it was used by early Christians and the Bible. Now, according to the Bible, faith is a reason and a method to believe in God. Let's take a look at faith as a reason to believe in God. The Bible often emphasizes that faith is a foundational reason for belief in God. It is portrayed as a response to God's revelation and wisdom and an acknowledgement of his existence and character. For example, Hebrews 11, verse 6 in the New International Version states, "And without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe he exists, and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him." The verse from Hebrew 11, verse 6 does imply that faith is presented as a crucial element in the relationship with God, involving an acknowledgement of the existence of God and trusting in the character. Also, it suggests that belief in God goes beyond solely relying on empirical evidence that can be observed or measured in a scientific or objective manner. Instead, it emphasizes a more personal and subjective dimension. Faith as a response to God's revelational wisdom and a trust in his nature. The verse also asserts that without faith, it's impossible to please God. So faith is often seen as a relational and experiential response to the divine, encompassing trust and devotion and a personal connection with God through Jesus Christ. I'll address this at a later stage as well, being because emphasizing a personal and subjective dimension is a clever way of saying your personal truth and not an objective truth, leaning heavily on the subjective personal belief. On the other hand, let's take a look at faith as a method of believing. Additionally, the Bible portrays faith as a dynamic and active method of believing in God. It involves trust, reliance, and a personal relationship with the divine. Faith is not merely an intellectual assent to certain propositions, but a lived experience that shapes one's actions and responses. In James 2, verse 17 in the New Testament, highlights the connection between faith and action. And I quote, "In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." End quote. In summary, one should use trust or faith to believe that God exists. And once you've done this, you should use your actions to foster a personal connection with the divine through actions like seeking guidance. An example being prayer and communication with God to receive insight or comfort or answers. Another example, reading scriptures and teachings to find principles and commandments and wisdom that provides a framework for ethical living and decision making. Another example, inner convictions or intuition. Guidance may be experienced as intuition or inner convictions that believers attribute to the influence of the divine. This inner sense of direction can shape a person's decisions and actions, aligning them with what the person perceives as a God's will. Another method is signs and providential events. Some believers interpret events in their lives as a sign or providential occurrences that offer guidance from God. These can be seen as meaningful coincidences or interventions that points believers in a particular direction. Another example, spiritual leaders. Guidance may come from or through the counsel of spiritual leaders or mentors. Using faith as a guiding force provides believers with strength, comfort, and a sense of purpose, even in challenging circumstances. Faith gives hope and resilience during hard times. Okay, so that's a lot to work with, but work we shall. Let's dive right into the deep end. I'll acknowledge that beforehand that most people's belief in their own religions are not purely based on faith. With that said, the Bible states in Ephesians 2 verses 8 to 9, "For by grace you have been saved through faith, and that not of yourself. It is the gift of God, not as a result of works, so that no one can boast. This verse clearly states that salvation is through faith, and it is a gift from God, not as a result of works. As well in Romans 10, verse 9, that if thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, and shalt believe in thine heart that God hath raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. This verse emphasizes the necessity of faith in Jesus Christ for salvation. So, this word faith, this tool, is a significant cog in the wheel of self deception. It's a fallback, a fail safe word that needs to be understood for one to grasp the influence that it has over a person. Now that I have made this assertion, I would expect you to respond with, well, please pray tell what supports your assertion. Well, okay. A significant issue with the self-proclaimed notion that faith transcends intellectual understanding lies in its potential to serve as a gateway for false beliefs, encouraging the idea that one could use faith to believe in something without discerning or understanding or having evidence. What I mean to say is, if you believe in a God, and I mean any God, you need no justification for your belief. You just need faith, because most religions teach and encourages you to take it upon faith. It's a good, a positive attribute to have. For example, in Romans 3 verse 22, the righteousness is given through faith in Jesus Christ to all who believe. And in John 20 verse 29, Jesus says to Thomas, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." The Bible advocates for those who believe with faith. As well, those whom rely on little or no evidence are not just righteous, but are blessed. You are blessed for not being able to logically justify your belief. It's something that a Christian could say to a Hindu or a Sikh. And according to the Bible, this is a good thing, but not just a good thing, it is righteous. I can hear the outcry of those who point out the verse in the Bible that says, testing everything, hold on to the good, and say that this is proof that the Bible advocates for critical thinking and testing your beliefs. I agree that at some level it does seem to imply that. However, the Bible also states in Matthew 4, verse 7, Jesus speaking here, again, it is written, "You shall not put the Lord your God to test." One might ponder why a deity who asserts its existence as the one and only God would include such a warning. If this God is as self-evident and omnipotent as the scriptures claim, the need for a prohibition against testing could be seen as raising questions about the power or capability or even the existence of this God. Note how this warning to not put the God of this religion to the test works 100% in any other religion as well. This message of don't attempt to find out the truth of this or that religion, you must just believe. I find and I've noticed that this is a common thread between different religions. The religion cares not for you to have knowledge of the truth regarding said religion. They only care about your attendance or your subscription to the religion, which makes me always think about the words spoken by Jesus. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And he was right. I am free. Furthermore, allowing Satan to retain his supernatural power means that Satan can, and apparently does, approach believers to deceive them by appearing as an angel, and Satan could even mimic God, since those who have not yet seen or experienced this God would be none the wiser. And you are prohibited to test this entity speaking to you because the Bible says so. Actually, the Bible warns you not to. So, how would you know if it's God or Satan masquerading as God? One might think that Satan would tempt you to do immoral things, and that's how you would know. But that's literally suggesting that a higher being with an intellect far above our means would be so stupid to just suggest to do something immoral. And you would think this incredibly deceitful intellectual being wouldn't just mimic what God would do and say, so that Satan has all the appearances of this God and becomes the entity that you would have a relationship with. You would think that you are talking and worshiping and loving God. All the while, your words and affection go directly to Satan that's mimicking God. But you wouldn't ever know. Not your fault, as Satan is vastly more intellectual than a mere human, and being that he is the master of manipulation and deceit, but it's partly the Bible's fault for warning you not to put God to the test. Well, you would say that, yes, it specifically says not to put God to the test, but if you do not know who you are speaking to, you wouldn't put Satan to the test if you thought it was God. How do or would you know? And if this is not problematic to you, I ask, who is more likely to command you to do immoral things? Who is more likely to command you to go kill someone, God or Satan? Well, I would guess that most people would say Satan. Well, with that in mind, who commanded Moses to commit genocide over other nations, and apparently also claimed that you should love thy neighbor? I digress. But getting back onto topic, I'll first address what is stated in James 2, verse 17, that faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. This verse is a reminder that faith without action is empty. Faith is not just about believing something, it is also about living in accordance with that belief. When we act on our faith, we strengthen it and make it more real to us. But unfortunately, us is subjective. This is incredibly problematic for the following reasons. It's true for any faith-based belief, whether it's religious or philosophical or political. If you believe that something is true and you act in a way that is consistent with that belief, then your belief will become stronger over time. When we act on our beliefs, we are putting ourselves out there in the world. We are making a statement about who we are and what we believe. Our beliefs become a part of our identity. This can be a very powerful and affirming experience. However, it is also important to be aware of the potential pitfalls of this approach. For example, if we act on our beliefs without first critically examining them, which to my experience the vast majority of people do not do, we may end up reinforcing our biases and perpetuating harmful ideas. It is also important to be open to the possibility that our beliefs may need to be modified or even abandoned in the light of new evidence. The belief itself doesn't necessarily have to be harmful for you to critically examine its truth value. If it's a belief that you actually incorporate into your life and derive principles, meaning, or structure, or not to mention morals from, is it not of great value to know that you are believing in something that is actually grounded in truth? With that said, this marks the end of part one of Got to Have Faith, as I'll continue to address the issues with the methodology and reasoning behind faith in part two, which will be available as soon as this episode is available. I thank you for listening, and I'll see you in part two.